Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at information security.
Ooh, very important.
It is. And, I think it's one of those things that, people hear about all the time, but it's hard to know, like, where to even start, right?
Absolutely.
So luckily we have an expert here today to guide us.
Hi, everyone.
And so we're going to be taking a look at this article that we found super interesting.
Yes.
It's called Information Security, the Infinite Game.
I like that title.
Yeah.
That's catchy.
Yeah, it is. And it was written by Klaus Kilvinger
Okay.
from a company called Opexa Advisory based in Germany.
All right.
So they're really making a name for themselves in the information security space over there.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, right away, this idea of an infinite game, that really caught my attention. I mean, it's so true, right? Information security, it's not like you reach the finish line and you're done.
Yeah.
It's a constant process. This is something that you always have to be thinking about.
Right. So how is that different from, maybe the way we used to think about security?
Yeah.
Like I remember back in the day, it was all about like,
Building those walls?
building a fortress around your data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Firewalls, antivirus software.
Right.
We've got this covered.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the world has changed so much, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We've got the cloud remote work. Everyone's handling so much data.
Yeah.
It's like that fortress has turned into, I don't know, a giant sprawling city
Okay.
with vulnerabilities everywhere you look.
So it's like you've got cracks in the walls.
Yeah.
You've got people coming in and out all the time.
Exactly. And you don't even know who all those people are anymore, right?
Right.
So what does that mean for businesses? How do they even keep up?
Yeah. That's the question, right?
Well, Kilvinger is really big on adaptability,
Okay.
resilience.
So it's not just about setting up those defenses and then forgetting about it.
Nope, you can't just do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's got to be proactive,
Okay.
anticipating threats, always adjusting your strategy.
He actually says that information security has to be like woven into the very fabric of how a company operates.
Yeah, it can't be an afterthought.
Right.
It's got to be part of the DNA
From day one.
from day one.
He also talks a lot about leadership
Yes, leadership is crucial.
and the importance of creating a culture of security
Absolutely.
within a company.
And not just any kind of leadership. He talks about courageous leadership.
What does that mean?
Leaders who are willing to actually champion information security,
Okay.
even when it's hard, even when it means making tough decisions.
Okay, so investing resources, maybe even going against the grain sometimes.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to rock the boat a little bit
Right.
to really prioritize security.
And he argues that that's the only way to create a culture where everyone understands.
Everyone understands their role
Yeah.
in keeping things secure.
He's got this great story about a former boss
Oh, yeah.
who had this rule:
Okay, tell me.
intelligent usage of communicated agreements.
All right, that's a mouthful.
It is.
Yeah.
I know.
What does that even mean?
So break that down for us.
Yeah.
What does that look like in a real company?
Well, I think it's about finding that balance
Okay.
between, having clear guidelines, but then also trusting your employees
Okay.
to actually use their judgment.
Okay.
So you're communicating the policies, the expectations clearly, but then you're empowering people to make smart decisions.
So it's not just about following the rules blindly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about creating a sense of responsibility.
Okay.
You're encouraging people to be proactive, to think critically about risks,
Yeah.
report any issues they see.
And he actually argues that this approach can be a competitive advantage
Oh, absolutely.
for businesses.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
These days, data breaches, they're happening all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Right? So customers are looking for companies they can trust.
Right. They want to know that their data is safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want to do business with the companies that are taking this seriously.
He even brings up Nokia. Like, what happened with Nokia in the smartphone market?
They didn't adapt.
Right.
They failed to keep up with the changes in the security landscape, and look what happened.
Yeah. That's a pretty stark example.
It is. It's a reminder that security or the lack of it can really make or break a company.
So it's not just about protecting data.
No.
It's about protecting your reputation, your customer relationships,
Yep.
and ultimately your bottom line.
Your bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he also talks about the importance of flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
Like, organizations need to be able to move quickly,
Agile.
yeah, in their approach to security,
Especially now.
especially now.
Things are changing so fast.
He talks about the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
When everyone suddenly had to work from home,
Right.
companies had to scramble.
They had to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah,
And it showed how important it is to be prepared for the unexpected.
right.
You got to be able to adapt your security measures quickly and effectively.
So how do companies build in that flexibility?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right, because you don't want to compromise security in the process.
Exactly.
So how do you do both?
Well, Kilvinger suggests looking at external expertise sometimes,
Okay.
bringing in a fresh perspective,
Okay.
leveraging specialized knowledge.
So tapping into resources that you might not have in-house.
Exactly.
So it's about knowing your limitations and being willing to ask for help
Yeah.
when you need it.
And, he specifically mentions things like security operations centers.
The SOCs.
Yeah, SOCs, or even outsourcing the CASO role.
So you've got your Chief Information Security Officer.
But you don't necessarily have to have them in-house full-time.
And it sounds like OPEXA advisory.
They might be a good resource for that.
Yeah, they might be a good resource if companies are looking for that kind of expertise.
They definitely seem to have a good grasp of the challenges, and they offer a range of services to help.
Now, before we get into those services, I want to unpack some of the key concepts that Kilvinger highlights in his article.
Okay, let's do it.
Because he talks about a few different models and standards that are becoming really important in the world of information security.
Yeah, like what?
So things like the Zero Trust Security Model,
Okay,
security by design,
right.
the least privilege policy, and then established standards like ISO 27001, TISAX, BSI, Grundschutz.
A lot of acronyms.
There are a lot of acronyms.
And of course, GDPR.
Oh, of course. Can't forget that one.
So let's break these down one by one.
Yeah.
Starting with the Zero Trust Security Model. What's that all about?
So zero trust, it's kind of like it sounds. You're eliminating implicit trust
Okay.
within your network.
So no more trusted networks or automatic access.
Exactly. You're basically saying we don't trust anyone by default,
Wow. Okay.
even people within your organization.
So everyone has to prove who they are.
Every single time,
Every time.
every access request, every device connection.
That's pretty intense.
It is. It's a much more rigorous approach,
Okay.
but it's also way more effective, especially now with everything being so complex.
Especially now.
So it's a mindset shift,
Definitely.
but it's probably a necessary one.
Definitely.
And then there's security by design.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty fundamental.
It is. It's about baking security into every single stage of development.
Okay.
So from the very beginning,
From the initial design.
all the way through to implementation and deployment.
So it's not an afterthought.
Nope. It's baked right in.
It's part of the process from day one.
Exactly. You're building a more resilient foundation that way.
Like building a house with strong foundations and reinforced walls.
Exactly. Rather than trying to add bars to the windows later.
Yeah. Okay. I like that analogy.
And then there's the least privilege policy,
Oh, okay.
which is all about minimizing access
To sensitive information.
to sensitive information to resources.
This is like need-to-know basis.
Exactly. You
Okay.
only give people access to what they absolutely need.
So if someone's account gets compromised,
Or if they make a mistake.
you're limiting the damage.
You're limiting the blast radius.
Okay.
It's like giving someone the key to just one room
Yeah.
instead of the master key to the whole building.
Okay, so you're compartmentalizing access to reduce risk.
Exactly.
And then we've got those established standards.
Acronyms.
Yeah, the acronyms like ISO 27001,
Yep.
which can seem really daunting.
Oh, I know, especially for smaller businesses.
Yeah,
They might not have a whole security team.
right. But Kilviner emphasizes that, complying with these standards.
It's not just about checking boxes.
Right.
It's about building a solid framework
Okay.
that actually protects you.
And he even argues that it can be a competitive advantage.
Right.
So getting those certifications
Like ISO 2701.
shows that you're serious about security.
If you've met these rigorous international standards.
So it's a way to build trust with your customers.
Exactly.
And it sounds like that's a big part of OPEX Advisory's philosophy.
Yeah, it seems like they're all about turning compliance into an asset.
Instead of viewing it as a burden. Okay, well, let's dig a little deeper into OPEX Advisory
All right.
and the services they offer,
I'm curious.
because it sounds like they might be the perfect partner
They might be.
for businesses that are trying to navigate this whole infinite game
This ever-evolving world.
of information security.
Yeah.
So we'll be back after a short break to explore their expertise and talk about how they can help businesses of all sizes achieve their information security goals.
Sounds good. All right, so we've talked about why information security is so important.
So why?
But now let's get into the how.
Yeah, how do you actually do it?
How do companies actually implement these things?
Especially if they don't have a whole team of experts
Right.
sitting around.
Well, that's where a company like OPEXA Advisory comes in.
Okay.
They seem to really specialize in a couple key areas.
Okay.
ISO 27001 consultancy and something called COZOS.
Okay, now I've heard of ISO 27001, but COZOS, That's a new one.
Yeah, it's a bit of the mouthful.
So let's start with ISO 27001.
Okay.
For those who maybe aren't familiar, can you give us a quick overview?
Sure. So think of ISO 27001 as like a blueprint
Okay.
for building a really solid information security management system.
So an ISMS.
An ISMS. It's a globally recognized standard,
Okay.
and it basically outlines best practices for everything.
So we're talking about managing risks, protecting data,
Exactly.
making sure you're compliant with regulations.
It's not just about technology either.
Right.
It's about processes, policies, people, too.
So it's a holistic approach.
Exactly. It takes everything into account.
At OPEX Advisory, they actually guide companies
They do.
through the whole process of getting ISO 27001 certified.
Yeah, from the initial risk assessment
Okay.
to implementing all the necessary controls,
Like-
documentation, everything.
And this is something that Kilvinger actually talks about in his article.
Yeah, he says companies shouldn't just see ISO 27001 as a box-ticking exercise.
Right.
It's about actually building a culture of security
Yeah.
that's embedded in the DNA of the organization.
And that's what OPEX Advisory seems to be all about.
Right. They don't just hand you a manual and say good luck.
Yeah.
They actually work with you.
Okay.
They provide guidance. They make sure that the system is tailored
Okay.
to your specific needs.
So it's personalized.
It is. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
And what's interesting is they actually say that getting ISO 27001 certified,
It's not just about mitigating risks.
it's about gaining a competitive advantage.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Well, think about it. Data breaches are happening all the time, right?
Yeah, constantly.
So if you have that ISO 27001 certification,
Okay.
it shows your customers, your partners, even your investors,
Okay.
that you're taking security seriously.
It's like a seal of approval.
It is. It builds trust and confidence.
So you're turning compliance into a selling point,
Exactly. Can really set you apart.
especially in those industries where data protection is so crucial.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about CIOS,
All right.
Chief Information Security Officer as a Service.
As a service.
So I'm guessing this has something to do with having a virtual CISO.
You got it.
Okay.
Because not every company, especially smaller ones,
Right.
can afford to have a full-time CISO on staff.
Right. So it can be expensive,
It can be.
and you might not need someone full-time.
Exactly.
So this is a way to get that expertise.
Without having to hire someone full-time.
Okay.
So OPEXA Advisory, they basically provide a dedicated CISO
Okay.
who works closely with your team,
Okay.
acts as an advisor, oversees your entire security program.
So it's like having a top-tier security expert on call.
Yeah, but without the overhead of a full-time employee.
And they handle all the stuff that a regular CISO would handle.
Yep, risk assessments, policy development, incident response planning, you name it.
That sounds pretty valuable.
It is, especially for companies that might not have the internal resources
Right.
to manage all that themselves.
And what's interesting is that OPEXA Advisory, they emphasize that infinite game approach
Yeah.
with their CSO as offering.
They-
So they're constantly adapting and evolving their strategies.
They're not just setting up a static set of policies and procedures.
Okay.
They're constantly monitoring the threat landscape,
Okay.
evaluating new technologies,
All right.
adjusting their approach to make sure you're always protected.
So it's about being proactive and staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
It sounds like they're really invested in the long-term success of their clients.
They do. They seem to get it.
Yeah, helping them build that resilient security posture.
That Kilvinger talks about.
It's the infinite game all over again, isn't it?
It is. You're never really done.
And it sounds like OPEX Advisory is a great partner
They could be.
to have on that journey.
Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into information security,
It's a big topic.
it really is. I think one of the key takeaways for me is that this isn't just about technology, right?
Absolutely. It's much bigger than that.
It's about people processes. And like Kilviner says, it's really tied into the culture and the leadership of a company.
Yeah, he's really emphasizing that strategic vision.
Right, like making those decisions early on that prioritize security.
And it seems like OPEXA Advisory, they really get that.
Yeah, they do.
It's not just about selling services.
They're like partners.
Your partners, they're helping companies build a more secure future.
Yeah, and I love how they talk about turning security into a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Whether it's that ISO 27001 certification or that CISO's offering, they're helping companies actually showcase their commitment to security.
And that builds trust.
Right, with customers, with stakeholders.
Exactly.
So instead of looking at security as like a cost center, it's actually a value driver.
It's a smart way to look at it.
Yeah, it is. So for our listeners out there,
All right.
If they're ready to take on this infinite game of information security, what would you recommend as a first step?
Well, first of all, realize you don't have to do it all alone.
Yeah,
Like we were saying, the stuff is complex.
it is.
It's constantly evolving.
New threats popping up all the time.
Yeah, so it's wise to seek out some expert guidance.
And it sounds like OPEXA Advisory could be a good place to start.
Yeah, they offer a free 30-minute discovery call.
Okay.
So you can talk to their team of experts,
Okay.
see what your needs are, what your challenges are.
Yeah, get some personalized insights.
Yeah, absolutely.
And figure out how they can help you build a more secure, foundation for your business.
Exactly. And remember, it's an ongoing process.
It is that infinite game.
But every step you take towards strengthening your security,
Uh-huh.
it's a step towards protecting your business, your data, your reputation.
So well said. So I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive today.
I think so too.
So we hope you found this episode insightful and helpful.
Yeah, and hopefully a little bit less intimidating.
Little less intimidating, right? We want you to feel empowered to actually take those steps towards building a more secure future for yourselves, for your businesses. And to our listeners, be sure to check out OTEXA Advisory's website if you want to learn more about their services and schedule that free consultation.
It's a great opportunity.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.
Bye, everyone.